Right, I've started work on the Falcon. I'm working on the figures. I'm just waiting for the paint to dry. I'm going to do those in stages. Painted the seats. On the rear seats, I've just got the first part of the seat covers down. I've still got to put another couple of coats on that before I paint everything else in the black and anthracite and that. Now, I've primed the interior walls on the cockpit tub, and there's a lot of people on YouTube that have built this, and it's half and half. Some of them have resorted to sanding all that detail down and then putting the decals down, but then the decals look a bit flat. And then some of them have actually painted it on themselves and it actually pops better. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint all those separately by hand with my detailing brush. So that's the one side. Here's the other side, because I think that detail's lovely. It's a shame to actually sand it. And then you've got the main console. So I'm going to be painting all that. But I mean, don't get me wrong, the decals are really, really nice for the interior. They are. They're lovely. So I'm going to be using the decals as a guide of to paint what. On the clear part, I'm going to use the clear part, and I'm going to spray that in the black, and then leave that clear, mask that off, and then the one chap I watched, I think it's Model Chili Scale Models or something, he actually sprayed the clear part black and then used the back edge of his knife and just scraped the black off and just left some clear bits, and then just painted the clear bits so the light would show through. So that's what I'm going to do. So like I said, the decals are really nice, but it's just not worth sanding all that down. It's not worth the effort. So all that is where I'm sitting at the moment. Right, so I've started work on the cockpit area now. First thing I did, started to paint the figures. So there's all my figures: the Han Solo, Chewie, Luke, Princess Leia and Obi-Wan. So I just, like I said, I primed those in the white, and then I've just used the various colours to paint that on. It's looking really nice, not bad at all. So with the Obi-Wan, I mixed two colours. I mixed Humbrol 118 US Tan Matte with number 41 Humbrol Ivory till I got that colour. And then the rest of it's just brown. With his facial features and his hair, I've painted a light grey on and then just dry brushed some white on. Leia's pretty much self-explanatory, just white. With Han, midnight blue for his trousers. I used Sovereign Models teak for his shirt, and just black. Now in the films he does have a yellow stripe, but it's on brown trousers, but I actually like the yellow stripe on the blue trousers, so that's what I've done, the Carillion stripe. With Chewbacca, I used a mixture of Humbrol 26 brown, which is a normal brown, and then number 9 reddish brown, and then I just dry brush some 251 dark chocolate brown for his highlights. Done the utility shoulder strap. With Luke, I painted him pretty much the same colour as Obi-Wan, but then I realised, actually not Obi-Wan, Han, with the same shirt, but then I realised his tunic was white, so I just painted the tunic on, and then just left the Sovereign Models teak on his legs. As far as C-3PO goes, I had to cut him off the sprue and paint him separately. So I sprayed on some 151 gold, and then using Tamiya's X24 yellow, clear yellow, because that's what it says in the guide, and it really brought out the gold. And then I just painted his right leg in silver, but that's really brought him out, the clear yellow. Painted the seats, the front seats, in the 118 tan, same tan that I used on Viper's plane, and just black, and painted round the back. The other seats, the rear seats, sorry, I used Falcart's yellow ochre for the cushions, and then black for everywhere else. I've still got to touch those little squares up in silver. On the back I used aluminium after studying some photos. I've started to dress up one of the interior parts now, mainly the main cockpit, the main console, and using the decals as a guide, I've just painted that on. It's not perfect, but it's not too bad. Looks alright. Especially around these bits here with these straight pieces, I went overboard slightly and I couldn't get a brush in there to straighten that up. So I just used my 0.5mm fine liner pen and just straightened that up. Tidied that up a bit. I've painted the clear back wall. Sprayed one coat of the black Halfords, and the rest is all matte and gloss white black by hand. Took 5 coats. Now that's ready to be painted. There's no transparency in that whatsoever, apart from that little bit of tape there. And finally, the side walls of the cockpit are now painted in the matte black, and then using those decals as a guide to do the back wall and the sides, I'm going to be painting all that on by hand. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment. Right, what has been probably about a busy 10 days or so, with other stuff as well as the working on the Falcon cockpit. I've actually finished the Falcon cockpit now. I'll start with the front seats. I've got Leia and Chewbacca in the seats. I'll put a extra few more colours on the dials and switches of the dashboard. So that's that. I've now also put Obi-Wan and C-3PO in the rear seats, because Han and Luke are going to be in the gunner seats, because there's actually 2 gunner seats for when they escape the Death Star, so that's what I'm going to be using Han and Luke for. Here's the one side of the interior wall. Basically, using the decals as a bit of a guide and looking at some pictures online, I just mainly use gunmetal, Vallejo gunmetal, not Vallejo gunmetal, Army Painter gunmetal for the most part. Put a bit of whites on for the dials and lights and switches, and then just went round with some red, green, yellow, orange, and that's pretty much it. It's not going to be, I'm going to say this cockpit ain't going to be screen accurate, but it's alright for what I want it for. So there's the one side wall. So going round with the gunmetal, and then just tidying up the edges with my 0.05 fine line marker pen, just to straighten it up a bit. Then you've got the white line decal right in the middle. So I just cut that off the top of one of the decals for that panel, and then just put that in set Microson and seal. So that's the one side wall. The other side wall, pretty much rinse and repeat with the gunmetal. and then with the colours and with the white decal. I think that looks alright actually. Like I said, it ain't perfect and it ain't screen accurate, but I'm happy with that. And last but not least, the back wall. This is what I'm most impressed with. So, again with the gunmetal and the 0.05 marker pen. I went with, round the door frame, I went with the 118 tan that I use for Vipers plain. Took about 3 coats on top of the black. And then I took the tape off there and there. And then just went round with the various colours. And then eventually I put the decal on. Now what I did with the door decal is those two like triangular squares there, I cut them out with my scalpel. And then you got like a square panel decal right in the middle. I cut that out as well, because I didn't think that the sol and the set would actually sink right into there. So I put the door panel in first, the door decal. Then I put the 2 triangular square ones, and then the one in the middle for the control panel. And they actually sink the sunk in because they're separate. And then just set microsol. I think I applied 3 applications of microsol. Once the microsol had dried, and then I just glossed it. But I'm really chuffed on now the colours and like using the gunmetal by hand as opposed to using the flat decals and sanding all this lovely detail down. I'm really well chuffed with all that. So, with that being said, all this now is ready to be put together. Right, I've now put the completed cockpit tub together now. So, on the plans, it tells you to put the 2 halves of the tub together, then mount the forward seats in with the main dashboard console. Then it tells you to put the rear seats in, and then the back wall. So, putting that back down. Now what I had to do, you could see that I've put some tape on the underneath because I had to widen the hole slightly on the one side. And when I did that, it was slightly a bit too loose, so I've just put a drop of glue in there. And on the top, some Tamiya extra thin and just the tape to hold it all together. While that was drying, I've then put the back wall in. Now with the tabs, you've got like some rectangular tabs. You've got one there, there's one there, there's one there, and then you've got 2 circular plugs. Well, I had to sand down the tabs slightly because they've got some paint on them with the primer and the black, so I'll just give them a quick sand. And then took with the circular rods there, the pushing tabs, I'll just give them a quick sand because they've got a touch of primer on them. And then once I've done all that, that's slotted in perfect. So you just get the tabs, line them all up and just push that down like that. And that's that all done. Now you could see inside there, because I've got the flash on, the cockpit's looking really nice. And I'm really well chuffed with that. So, just a heads up for you, if you're thinking about sanding the detail down, I wouldn't bother. Try and paint it first. If you can't paint it and you're not very good with fine detailing, then sand it down and put your decals on. But I'm so glad I actually did all that detailing by hand. Really well chuffed indeed.